Degenhardt. I am the co-author of this really great book that we're going to talk to you about tonight, Salida 8. And it actually was the brainchild of Diego. He reached out to me, I don't know when, maybe last summer?
Last summer, maybe, yep.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for that help, because I don't remember. But he just said, oh, we should write a book together. And I said, great. And I didn't know what it was going to be about, but this was a topic that I've always thought about, and a topic theme that I know that Diego is also passionate about. So, here we go. And I don't know why it says viaje difícil here, but that's not. Oh dear. Well, anyway. So we're going to talk to you about the book Salida 8, and the story, the theme of the book is the human experience of migrant workers that come to the United States. And I wrote the book, I think I wrote the story within a week. It really came out pretty quickly. And then Diego took the reins, and he added in the magic at the end of each chapter in the poetry. So that's what makes this book incredibly unique. In addition to the fact that it is an entry level book for novice learners, and this is all the stuff that's in it. Okay, I mean, I put a little a call out there on Facebook and Twitter and asked teachers what they wanted to have in a level 1 reader, and this is what they told me. Ser estar, gustar, regular versus changing verbs, gustar, preguntar versus pedir, tener expressions, and etc. Okay, and also some direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, question words, and stuff like that. So I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get all that stuff in there with a lot of repetition. There are fewer than 200 unique words in the story, and I think almost 90 cognates. So that's great for novice learners. And so what we wanted to do tonight is to show you just the first chapter about how to use this book with your students, and get you started with a comprehensible reader. Okay, and the way I start usually with any of my readers, but this one especially, because I think people have preconceived notions about undocumented immigration and just migrants in general. I use a T-chart, and they put down what they know and what they want to know. And I teach at the college level, but that doesn't mean anything actually. It could just let people know that they might know a little bit more, having discussed it in other courses, or my students in particular come from immigrant families, so they might have personal experience. So I have added a link here to a bunch of T-charts for you, and you can use these if you like. And sometimes I will have them do this in English for real novice learners. I have the benefit of having some heritage speakers in my classes, so they work in groups to fill out the T-chart and help the other students with the language. But then we review together, and I just like to present them with the T-chart and present them so I can know what they know. And so I can maybe squash any, any misconceptions that they might have, and sort of get them focused on the human aspect of migration in general, because I think that's really the most important. And this is even before we start reading, of course, because just, getting them used to the language in general. I would probably start this particular novel maybe a few weeks in, after doing some, warming up things and some other smaller and easier readings for the students, so they don't get so overwhelmed. Although I have to say that my college students just jump right in. And when I was teaching high school, I threw out a novel of this level also to students, after about 3 weeks, after doing some pronunciation exercises, and they really took to it without without a lot of stress. Okay, and then I show them a video. Okay, and I'm going to try to move this for you. Here we go. Okay, or give them a video just to, with subtitles, so that there's something to see, so they know that there's real people involved. Usually the videos I find on YouTube are quite good. And or you can use the lesson from Brain Pop. Okay, and the writing in the book way easier than anything they're going to see in Brain Pop. Okay. Oops. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my mouse. Here we go. Okay, and I like to give them an image like this and have them even do a free write in English, or a just something where they can put their thoughts down so they can have their questions answered, and then maybe go back to the T-chart and have them fill it in. Say what do you want to know? Okay. So, and I, for intents and purposes of this particular book, we would use photos and images of Latin American immigration to the United States. But as this book is also in French, you can really pick any immigrant group to the United States, because the story is not dissimilar. Okay, just to get them thinking, trying to think, even any words they know, just put that down. There's no penalty, it's because we're just trying to get some ideas out onto the paper. I'm going to try here on the mouse. Here we go. Okay, and geography, my favorite. I teach the cardinal directions right away, and we spend a lot of time, almost for 4 or 5 classes at the beginning of class, talking about where different countries are in Latin America, because even my college students, they don't have any idea. And I think that's really, really very important for a whole host of reasons, not necessarily for this book, but to see that where might the protagonists be from. It doesn't specify in the book, but it's a good idea to give students the overall view of how far people are actually coming to live in the United States. Okay, and we also talk about not what else is there to talk about in geography. Location and cardinal directions for sure, but climate. And where I live in Connecticut, I know that some of the immigrant groups that I've spoken with here, a lot of Guatemalans who come from the coast, the Pacific coast, where it's really hot, or in the tropical area in the northern part of the country. I mean, they come here and they freeze. I mean, it's terrible. Winters are horrible. And just talking about the differences there, differences to where you live when you're teaching the book, and also where immigrants might come from. Again, just to give a general idea for the students that it probably is not the same. And that might be a lot of master of the obvious, but it's important to remind them. I know that some of my students are, just think, oh, same, but it's so not same. And then we start to talk about, or we will start to talk about, when I do teach this book in the fall, why people might emigrate from their native country to the United States. And I discussed the difference between emigration and immigration. And then we talk about the whys behind both of those, which come to be the push. Whoops. You think this was the first time I used the mouse? Okay, sorry everybody. Okay, so the push-pull factors. Okay, and this you can elicit from the students and have them make educated guesses, which is fantastic. Oh, my cat came to visit. I don't know if you can see him. and to discuss why folks are pushed out of their countries. And that's just a simple term, right? What are the factors causing people to emigrate from their native countries? Be that politics or violence or climate change, or lack of job opportunities for the people there. So, and then I would talk about those things just in general. And there's a lot of cognates in Spanish, so that works out really, really well. And then again, we'll talk about the what are the pull factors? You know, what's so great about the United States, that people are coming into this country. And I often stress, nobody wants to leave their home country, by and large, right? That it's preferable to want to stay with your family in your homeland and your friends, and be able to have the life that you wish to have. But I just like to keep that in mind, and keep that in students' minds, so they will remember that this whole book is about people and not politics, because I'm not a political scientist, and I can't, I don't like to entertain that particular theme. So, and I give them a little listening. So I'm throwing everything at them all at once, and not for them to freak out, but then to realize, listen, it's a little challenging, but it doesn't have to be. And once you listen to it once, and then after you read a little bit of the book, you can go back to the same things. So they might pick up some more vocabulary. I recycle a lot in my classes, because repetition is the key to this success, right? So these are some of the things, and I added the links to them for you, so you can use these if you'd like. They are a little challenging, but even if they pick out one or two words, I mean, everybody feels like a winner. Okay. And for my students, I found that they prefer to have a vocabulary list. And how I make my vocabulary list is I put all of the verbs in one section and then everything else in the other. Some students will be able to manage and not have to define the other vocabulary, and other students need to do the whole thing. You do not have to do vocabulary if you don't want to, okay? But I do review the super 7 verbs and what an adjective is, and point out when it comes up in the reading, the different super 7 verbs, and the stem changing verbs and stuff like that as they occur naturally, because through this particular book, they're all repeated throughout. So if the students don't get it in the first chapter, maybe they'll get it by chapter 5, or maybe they'll get it by chapter 7. You know, I mean, we're not here to make perfectionists, because it's unattainable, because man, I've tried. Okay. And so do we do a lot of speaking? Yes, I ask them yes or no questions right off the bat. When we start the, you know, what do we know about, where is Guatemala, or where is Honduras? And so I'll keep asking them the questions that we reviewed in the push-pull factors in any of the materials that I've given them so far. I just want to see what they know and what they can respond to. And writing is not that important to me right at the moment. Okay, I just wanted to get their tongues wagging, because this is very scary for novice students to speak in Spanish, especially at the high school, college level, because everybody is worried about making a mistake. If they only knew how many I made. Okay. And then we start. And here it is. This is it for you. Chapter 1. So you see that it's really short, and the students take a look at it, and we go through, and first I'll say, okay, listen, see what words you might recognize, either from a billboard, or if you recognize them from the words being cognates, and I explain what a cognate is. Anything that they might have, if they've had Spanish before, at middle school level, or haven't had Spanish in a while, and anything to get them comfortable. And then I will have them read on their own, and then maybe they take a guess as to what's going on, or I might put them in groups and have them guess what's going on. I could put on the audio, which is not yet available. And then also I will go back to the comprehension questions, which I are right here linked for you. I think they're linked. I hope they are. If not, I'll do that right after the program. And we review the question words. I mean, this takes, a long time. I mean, this is not, especially in college, I have to have them do a lot of work at home. So they'll be doing the rereading at home and in their dorms, so that they're ready for the discussion. We use class time for the discussion. I don't know, what am I missing here? Because I can't see anybody. Okay, oh, it's time for poetry. So I'm going to stop sharing if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to read them.
I'll read the questions for you, Jen. I have the chat here. So
okay, great.
Megan is asking, do you use this to springboard off identity?
Oh, well, I mean, Megan, that's a great question. And let me tell you why, because neither, I don't know, Diego, you haven't taught this book yet, have you?
No.
No, me neither. I'm waiting for the fall. And, but yes, absolutely. I mean, identity is in all of my books, and you'll come to find out that it is also in all of the poems that Diego wrote. And so yeah, whatever I can do to get them talking. Yes.
There's another question someone asked, Jaime, super 7 verbs, what are they? And then someone answered with the verbs, but can you tell them a little bit about the idea behind the super 7 verbs, Jen?
Yes, only if you'll correct me when I screw it up. The super 7 verbs are, oh, they're on my board over there. So
just how you use them.
Well, they're the 7 most used verbs in any language. Okay, to be, to have, the other to be, there is, there are, to like, to go, to want, and those are the verbs that are most used in the language and in order to communicate. So I threw them into the prose, and Diego did so as well in the poetry.
Very well. And someone says, Megan again says that Teacher Discovery actually has them on a very nice poster, and that she has them in the classroom, and they are very helpful.
I don't have that luxury that you classroom teachers have.
Yeah, you don't have a classroom.
I have a classroom, and it's the same one, but other people, so many other people use it that I don't put up any posters. Sure. But we go really slowly, and I don't know that. I think well, that's not true either. I take that back. I was going to say my students' focus is pretty good, but it's not. That's just a lie.
And I don't see any more questions, Jen.
Okay, so all right. Well, if you think of one, by all means, put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll go over them. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing all those strategies and ideas that we can apply with not just Salida 8, but any reader, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. It's sharing slideshow here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So welcome again, everyone. My name is Diego Ojeda. I'm a Spanish teacher in Louisville, Kentucky. And I teach high school. I'm teaching 2 levels of Spanish, 2 of AP language and 1 of AP lit. And like Jennifer said at the beginning of the presentation, we started talking about this idea for this book back last year, probably during the summer. So I always wanted to write a book both with prose and poetry, because there was nothing like that, or there's nothing like that, at least in the CI reader world, that people could use. And the moment I shared the idea with Jennifer, she was very enthusiastic. And I shared that idea with Jennifer because if there's someone who really knows a lot about the immigrant experience to the United States, is Jennifer, because her own life, connections, friendships. I don't think you mentioned this, Jen, but this book is is kind of like dedicated to someone real, right?
Yes, yes, I didn't mention, I'm sorry. And I was just told people in the chats because when I share my screen, I can't see anybody. So I feel like I'm talking to myself. And not that I don't already do that all the time, but it's just very bizarre. Anyway, yes, the main character is named after a friend of mine from Guatemala who I don't know. I know that Megan is reading this book right now with her students, but the main character's name is Isais, and he is Cachiquel indigenous from Atitlan, Guatemala. And I met him years ago and became friendly with him and his family. And I wrote a jersey about his son and my best friend's son becoming friends. And Isaias and his wife Candelaria actually named their daughter after me. So this book is dedicated to him, and it just so happens that tragically he had to leave Guatemala to come to the United States because there was no work there. So at the time the book was published, he's now here. So it's very meaningful to me.
Right. And the moment I found out that the main character of Salida 8 was this Isaias, a real person. And I always like El Jersey. We did the audio for El Jersey with Jennifer. And since I read that book, I want so much to go to El Mundo. Is that the name of the
Casa del Mundo.
hotel? La Casa del Mundo in the Atitlan Lake. Oh my gosh, I just keep reading that book because I want to go there. So it was easier for me to actually get into his skin, you know, because when you write poetry, you need to feel it in order to express it in a decent way. So let's talk about poetry. Time for poetry. So this is the idea. I have been teaching in the United States for 24 years. And when I first came here, which I think they were the best years of my teaching career, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was very natural. I was very spontaneous. And I will bring, for example, music from a Colombian singer called Carlos Vives. And he has this song that is called Rosa. And the lyrics of Rosa are, Rosa, qué linda eres. Rosa, qué linda eres tú. Rosa, qué linda eres. And then you hear, qué linda eres, Rosa. And that they repeat and keep repeating how beautiful Rosa is. And like Jennifer said during her presentation, it's about repetition. With music, it's about the rhythm. And by looking at the lyrics of that song, that could have perfectly been a poem. And then I thought, okay, we really don't use much poetry. Why? And music and songs, most of them, unless it's what's the name of this rapper? Bad Bunny. Most of them are poetry. Bad Bunny is nothing. It's like, ooh, okay, whatever. So I'm like, we can find poetry that we can use at any level in the Spanish classroom. So I was new at this, not at poetry, but at using poetry as a resource, as a tool for the Spanish class. And I thought maybe the shorter and the brief, the better. So I started working with haikus. Haikus are very short, to the point, Japanese poems. And even though sometimes the vocabulary can be easy, they're very profound. And at that time, I was working with middle schoolers, and they really didn't get the feeling of what the poem was trying to say. So, you know, it's always a challenge and it's always a journey. So that's how I started thinking about using poetry in the classroom. So there's a disclosure in Salida 8 that says, Hola, glad we caught you. We wanted to let you know about the poems that you'll find at the end of each chapter, because as Jennifer said, each poem concludes each one of the chapters in the story of Salida 8. There are poems written by the main character. He likes to write and wants to share more of his thoughts with you throughout his poetry. Enjoy. So you have two things that are very powerful. You have the prose that is telling you the story, the situations, the actions, the drama, what's going on there and where, at what time. And then you get into the human side of that story and the reflection that the immigrant has about what has been happening to him throughout the day. That's something that I personally experienced as an immigrant. I came from Colombia, as I said, 24 years ago. And at the end of each day, there are so many things in my head, especially those first 5 years that not just were new, but that also allowed me to discover a little bit about myself. So it was a very, interesting feeling that I needed to express somehow. And this is what Isaias in the story is doing. He's telling his day through poetry, but not just through any kind of poetry, through comprehensible poetry, meaning that we wanted to make this comprehensible to everyone. So why poetry, my friends? Poetry is universal, okay? So what poetry brings, it's something that most humans can relate to. It's an universal language. Like, for example, we can talk about love, we can talk about friendship, we can talk about nature, we can talk about experiences, but pretty much experiences that are universal. Poetry is also a way to share with others how we feel inside, because we're so used to this outside world that we really don't stop and think, how do we feel inside? So we really don't know much about the other person. We say, hello, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, okay, bye. But you don't stop and say, hey, how's it going? Good, okay, tell me something good about, what's going on today. We never do that because we don't have the time. So we need to stop, and I believe that poetry allows us to stop and breathe. Take a breather and get to know inside of the person. Now, we talk about the human side of immigration. Why is the topic of immigration relevant? It's not just because it sells a lot of comprehensible input books, and it's very sometimes kind of offensive that some people will think that you write a book about immigration or with a story related to immigration just because you want to sell a lot of those books. No, the reality is one. The reality is, number one, we live in the United States of America. We live in a semi-bilingual country with a lot of Hispanic influence of those immigrants who have settled here in this country and make up probably 30% of the population of this wonderful country, if we count everyone, with papers or without any papers. So the human side of immigration is not just looking at the immigrant. That human side is also related to the person who lives in the same community with the immigrants. So it's something that we live and experience together, but not just in the United States, also around the world. Immigration happens around the world. As I mentioned before, I come from Colombia, And we are receiving a lot of immigrants from Venezuela since probably 3 years ago, when this economical situation in Venezuela got really difficult. So, you know, different countries react in different ways to these movements of people from one country to the other. Some people in the United States react supporting the wall, react supporting deportation, react supporting incarceration places where they, you know, put people before they get deported. Some people welcomes them. There is a very cool guy, I think he's a priest, that has this big sign. And when I drive to school every morning, he's like 2 blocks from my school and has a huge sign that says immigrants are welcome, honk. And I was like, bang, bang, of course I'm an immigrant, okay? So we have different views, but the reality is that this is not just something that is happening in the United States. And when we share that with our students, they gain perspective, because then they can see that this goes beyond the politics, as Jennifer was stating in her presentation at first. Then why is this relevant? Because we all live in the same community. We are different. We might think different. We might look different. We might speak different. I have an accent. I'm talking to you. We're part of this community. So this is all humanity. And that is why it is important to bring it in fiction or in other types of discourse. Poetry in the world language classroom. So the question, why isn't poetry commonly used in the world language classroom? So I was thinking, why? And I believe that this happens because many of us are scared about poetry. And why are we scared about poetry? Maybe we had experiences when we were students that were not that positive with poetry. And I'm gonna tell you my experience. As a native Spanish speaker, taking literature classes in high school in Colombia, 7th grade, and I remember my teacher, Elizabeth Camacho, wanted me to memorize the verses of Francisco de Quevedo from El Barroco Español Siglo de Oro. And I was just, and then recite in front of the classroom. Number one, I had no idea what those poems were saying, because El Barroco used a very kind of like complicated language, which was called culteranismo, very culto, with a lot of historic and mythological references. And I had no idea what they were saying. But she was so excited bringing this poetry to the class. So I wanted to respect that. And then she wanted us to recite in front of the class. Of course, I wanted to escape, like the little cartoon here. I'm like, I don't want poetry, get me out of here. So how was your first contact with poetry in your own experience? Obviously, then we become teachers and we kind of like put that on the back burner. Poetry, I don't want to bug my students with that, okay? Now, why is it good to use poetry? When you have a poem that is very condensed language, a very condensed message in a short text, you can bring in a couple of stanzas a bunch of topics. You can talk about many things, not just one thing. Let's just say, you know, there's a novel and the first chapter talks about something specific. In the poem, you can bring many different topics at once. That means that at the same time, you're bringing a lot of rich vocabulary, because in order to talk about different things in a very condensed space, you need to bring the best words that are going to actually communicate that message. And the other cool thing is that poetry allows us to take the language in chunks, not just trying to push that big block, but hey, I'm just gonna take a verse today and I'm going to get familiar with this and I'm gonna enjoy this, and then tomorrow the next one, and so on. So that's why it's good to use poetry. So if we go back to the first chapter here in Jen's presentation, let's go over this chapter. Let me read it and then I'll read the poem that goes with that chapter, okay? So dice, capítulo 1, la llegada. Estamos aquí, me dice Humberto. Entramos en un apartamento. El apartamento no es muy grande. En el apartamento hay 6 hombres. Hola a todos, soy Isaías. Los hombres me hablan. Hola Isaías, me llamo David. Soy de El Salvador. Bienvenido, soy salvadoreño también. Me llamo José. Hola, me dicen otro hombre. Me llamo Igor, soy nicaragüense. Me llamo Nicolás. Me llamo Ronaldo, soy hondureño. Hola, me llamo Jesús, soy de Ecuador. Hay muchos hombres y muchos nombres nuevos. ¿Tienes hambre? Me pregunta Humberto. No, no tengo hambre, pero tengo sed, le digo. David dice, aquí hay agua. Gracias, le digo. Tengo mucho sueño, quiero dormir. El viaje a los Estados Unidos es largo y difícil. Tengo que dormir. Humberto me da agua. Aquí tienes, Isaías, bienvenido. Gracias, amigo, tengo mucho sueño. Tienes que dormir. Mañana temprano vamos a la salida 8 para buscar trabajo. ¿A la salida 8? Quiero preguntarle a Humberto, pero tengo mucho sueño. Mañana voy a pedir más información. Entonces, Isaías acaba de llegar a un lugar en donde va a habitar con otros hombres, con los que más adelante va a buscar trabajo en la salida 8. Entonces, el primer poema se llama La llegada y dice, estoy aquí, estoy cansado. ¿En dónde estoy? Quiero descansar, quiero dormir, quiero soñar. Tengo preguntas, tengo sed, tengo ilusiones. Quiero un buen futuro imaginar. Entonces, see that it's kind of like the same, but in 2 different levels. And that is so powerful because in our classes, we have different types of learners. We have different types of students who might get the message in different ways. So if we allow for a book to tell the same story in 2 different ways, that is powerful. What do you think, Jennifer?
Diego, I mean, I'm overwhelmed actually when you read the poem. It's so beautiful, and having just read the chapter and then reading the poem, you're absolutely right. And I don't know anything about poetry. I am not a poetry girl.
You do. You're just too humble.
No, I don't. I didn't. But now, I mean, it makes so much sense, and I can now do this. And just for you reading and saying the few things you did, I can do it now in the fall. I can do it. I can make it work. And you're absolutely right that there are students who will buy into this poetry and this poem more than will buy into the prose of the chapter. So it's great. It's great.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
Muy bien. Okay, just to conclude here, some ideas on how to work with poetry. The most important thing before we start working with poetry, or as a matter of fact, with anything, is to try to check pre-knowledge. So, okay, what is the experience that students have with poems? Do you know, are you familiar with any poems in your own language, English in this case, or maybe if you have heritage speakers, have you heard poems? And they might share with you, they might share with you a song that they think is kind of like a poem, but many songs are based on poems. So let's take a look at that, kind of like opening some kind of excitement. Is there a particular poem for your country or heritage that you like? So if you're working with heritage speakers, let's allow them to show their pride through a song, through a poem. If they don't know, go and ask mom. Go and ask grandma, is there a poem that is really important to my community? In Colombia, we have a poet, his name was Rafael Pombo, and we're talking about the 1800s. And he wrote these poems that pretty much every Colombian has to learn by memory when we are in elementary school, because these are like rhymes. And one of them is called Rin Rin Renacuajo. and dice, rin rin renacuajo, salió esta mañana muy tieso mi cuajo, blah, 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 blah. So the kid goes home and asks, is there any poem that grandma is there any poem that mom that or maybe their own experience? Who are famous poets in your country? So we want the kids to be really sensitive with poetry. We need to make sure that we initiate this conversation the right way, not just right away go to the point, okay? Have the students written poems before? Maybe you have poets in the classroom. So then later when we work with the poems, allow them to illustrate those poems, okay? But not just drawing on a piece of paper. There are so many tools online that they can use to make cartoons or even to draw digital kind of like drawings. You can have the students then working in pairs, discussing the different illustrations and seeing how maybe they have different views and different understanding of what the poem was trying to say. And that makes it even richer. So this encourages the students to think about the meaning, to learn how to interpret poetry and literature. Give the students the opportunity to read the poems together as a class, and this will actually improve their confidence in their language skills. So we want them, to work with that language that they are learning. Look for opportunities to include poetry in other contexts. So, for example, poems that talk about social studies issues, history, science. We can find different examples of poetry that touches different topics as well. And we can work one day and another one the following day. So Salida 8 poems are all based on the story and the topic of immigration. Poems are a wonderful opportunity to teach new vocabulary, as we said before, related to a specific topic or idea. And the students, we can tell them, okay, choose a phrase or even a word that you really like, and let's make a poetic wall in our classroom. Then we can move around those words like magnet poetry and allow them also to be creative with those phrases or those words that they have taken from the poems because they like how they sound or they like their meaning, okay? We can ask them to order the poem if we give them the poem in a different order, and if the poem has a kind of like a lineal, kind of like story, then let's order the poem according to the story. So they have to go back to the story and make sure that the poem is arranged the right way according to the story. So that way we're working with both things. Okay. There are so many ways to work with poetry, but as I said before, it's better to go slowly. Because the idea is that, number one, they enjoy it. There are more. I take this opportunity to share with you that Teachers Discovery is bringing more comprehensible poetry. Corazón sin borrador is about friendship and love at the high school level. Nostalgia Migrante, Immigration, Poesía Gramatical are poems based on different grammar topics, but all of these are comprehensible poetry. All right, that's what I had to share, Jennifer.
Okay, Diego, would you do me the favor, please? And could you refresh your slideshow and go back to slide, actually, it's really not that important. Slide 11, where the chapter is, please. But you need to refresh because I just added the link. I thought I added all the links, but I'm not the greatest with the technology.
But I don't think they can do it from the presentation. It's better to put the link on the chat so they can open it from the chat.
Oh, no, yeah, no, and right.
Okay.
No,
so
but I wanted
to go back.
I wanted you to click on it so they could see what was there.
Here?
But you need to refresh though, because I added the link while you were talking, but I was listening. I promise. There we go. I promise you I was listening. I can't wait now. I mean, I can't wait for the fall. I mean, classes just ended last week and I can't wait to start again. I can make this book work for me all semester, because I will add in other things. And as soon as we get a little bit more language, at the college level, I will bring in some more authentic resources. So,
Here?
and also, yeah, that link, please. Yes,
Okay.
it should get to the, oh, never mind.
It says that
Yeah,
remote
never mind,
access.
never mind. Okay, I'm having
Okay.
sweating. I'm gonna fix that for you, but for everybody who's still with us, and that there's the first section of the resources that I created to go along with this novel. And Diego and I put the first chapter of the book in this presentation for you, plus the poem for you. If you've never used a comprehensible novel yet in your classes, or maybe you just want to use the poem, please, and you're looking for something to do in June, okay? Because we all know how it is. Use this and try it out, and I will grant you access to those resources for the first chapter, so you see what there is available. It's so rich, and there's so many with feelings and current events, with very simple vocabulary. I mean, in the poetry, I honestly, Diego, didn't get it until tonight. I had the aha moment tonight, like, oh yes, this is gonna be great. So it's, you don't know what you don't know until you hear it. And tonight it was that for me. I was happy to work on the project, but I didn't really get it until now. And now I get it. And I hope that you all get it too, because I think there's a lot here, and especially for, preparing students for, life in the real world post-graduation, be that for college or for the workforce. This is a good topic to talk about. It's probably not yet, Jean, it's not yet listed on Teachers Discovery yet, because they might be a little bit behind in putting it on the website, but we have offered it to them. At least I think we have, I have no idea. But if you can always, you can get them from Diego or me, so reach out to us individually, and we can make that happen for you, the French version. There have yet to be the resources that I created in French, but there will be. And this is this is a colleague of yours, is it not, Diego?
Yeah, a lady from here in Louisville, another school. It's actually a rival school, but we love her.
Oh, a rival school. Okay.
Yeah.
And she sent us she had the students make some scrapbooks, which I thought was a really great activity for them in 8th grade. And they were beautiful. So it's already been tried and tested. And these were actually her words that I copied and pasted right on.
Something really interesting, Jen,
Yes.
but kind of freaky, is that this is actually here in Louisville, and this is the exit that I take when I go to school every morning.
Oh, yeah. And the funny thing is that, well, if I didn't take the shortcut, I would also take exit 8. And that is where it's based off of the story, because that was the exit, or the entrance ramp for exit 8 was really where it is, where the migrants would congregate, and where people would come to pick up the migrants for for day laborer jobs. And just a little tidbit too, there's a man, there's a a U.S. representative. He is the representative for my district here in Connecticut, and I fashioned his character after him, and his name is Jim Himes, and he speaks Spanish. He was raised in Peru, as I think his parents were missionaries or something. And anyway, so he's from my district, and I sent him a copy of the book, and he really liked it as well. And so I've included a lot of things from our area.
Okay.
From my area, rather, my area. Diego and I don't live in the same area, but if you want to get in touch with us, please do. There were a couple of things, Diego, that I wanted to point out to you. Jennifer Spear said she loves the idea that poetry is so freeing too, as you needn't adhere to complete sentence structures. Do you want to respond to that? I totally agree.
Oh, was that a question? I think it was more like a.
It was a comment, but
Yeah.
I thought it was lovely.
Right.
Molly Hendricks was lovely too. She said, I love it. It is moving. You both are incredible. Two of my favorite colleagues to learn from. This book is going on my list. Thank you for writing this innovative style.
Thank you, Molly.
And let me see, is there a class set available? There may be a class set available on Teachers Discovery, and also if you order through Puentes, yes, we can offer a discount for a class set, but you'll have to contact me directly with a purchase order. Okay, last slide before this one. Last slide before, they want to see the last slide before this one, Diego.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know what it says. Okay, that's the one. Okay. And for the French version, Puentes has that as well, but you know, if you have questions about the French version, please ask me, because I'm not really sure if we have it on Teachers Discovery yet. Okay. If there are any other questions, by all means, reach out to us directly. That's on the last slide, and you're going to get this slide either in an email or in this chat. I don't really know. I'm going to change the permissions on the resources. I'm sorry about that. I think that I do things, and I'm middle-aged, so it doesn't really always happen.
You're good. The presentation is actually shared. It was shared in the chat, and it was also available on the event page, so people can reach it there.
All right, I'll fix.
And I'll also be sending it in an email, so everybody will make sure they will.
They're going to be having the presentation up the wazoo. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I got to make sure everybody has it and nobody misses it. So I don't want anybody to miss out.
That's great. That's great. Well, so thank you everyone for coming tonight on a Tuesday night in May. In May, I know everybody is like, is it June 15th yet, or whenever the last day of school is. So good luck to everyone for the last weeks of school. And, you know, if I can be of help, please feel free to reach out. I know Diego still has school, so or reach out to me. I'll help you out. I'm sure you
Absolutely.
would too. I'll take the heat.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much, Charles.
You're very, very welcome. And everybody, don't forget this
Thank you,
presentation
Charles.
is available up on Facebook now. So if you have questions, you can, of course, contact Jen or Diego directly, or you can go to Facebook. You can post it as a comment, and they will be checking those comments over the next day or so. So just make sure you tag them so that they, they see
tag
it.
us, tag us. Yeah. We're in a lot of groups, you know.
Right?
Oh, we're groupies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys could come out. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And yes, Anita, all of the it will be updated. The presentation that's shared with everybody is shared with everybody, so everything will be updated properly.
Yes, yes. I'll make sure everybody gets that. So have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Muchas gracias. Adiós.
Gracias. Adios. Adios.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Flangoo.com